Still on the pursuit of becoming a full-time professional artist. For me, this is something I've been doing part-time for years. And I was thinking about dream jobs. So if you had a dream job or a dream project that you'd want to work on, what would that be? What would that look like? The idea is that if you can find your passion, then you're going to be motivated to stay at it. And that's sort of how I've always kind of viewed life. It's sort of, well, find the things you like and then go out and pursue it. And then occasionally you'll even find some multi-millionaire expert guru talk about how to be successful, how to be happy in life. And they'll agree, you need to find the thing you're passionate about, because if you're not passionate about that thing, then you're not going to be the sort of person that's going to be willing to invest the time needed to finish that thing. So it's a tricky one. I mean, some people are just passionate about making money. Good for them. They can go off and create some projects or some products that, I don't know, easily cleans carpets, or is some kind of little widget or whatever that's going to sort of help electricians wire buildings, or help plumbers fix leaky pipes or something. I mean, to me, I have no interest in that. I'm coming from the sort of the creative fantasy sci-fi space, where I'm all about those kind of dream worlds and things that are sort of fantastical, that just inspire me. So yeah, that's how I've kind of viewed life. That's sort of been my outlook. It's sort of do what you want, and then providing, you can then market it and sell from it. That seems like a good idea. And it's not uncommon to sort of hear people talk about, marketing gurus say, oh, I can sell anything. I can sell ice to the Eskimos, that kind of thing. Any product just needs to find its audience. That's part of what we've been led to believe. So what I did, I created a board game, or a card game, Total Blast, a 2-player head-to-head card game that, in my opinion, as of right now, I've got no reason to believe it's not the best short-ish 2-player game in the world, that kind of doesn't exist. I've made the prototype, I've tested it, not had a bad word to get against it for what it is. I've had people suggest, oh, maybe you could just completely change the game into something else, and that's an idea, sort of when testing sort of feedback with playtesters and things, but it's not going to happen. And even if I did completely convert it into something else, it wouldn't be the thing that it is. And the whole point was to create sort of shortish 2-player game. So I'm kind of going down that route. I'm not going to expand it to sort of 5 or 6 or 7 player counts, or make a solo play version. It's just not that type of thing. I think, it's like making a pair of shoes and saying, oh, could you maybe make that pair of shoes so it would also fit, my big feet as well as your small feet? It's like, no, it's a pair of shoes in a certain style. It's going to fit a certain type of foot. That's what I've made. Like it, or find another pair of shoes in your size or your style. So that's kind of my angle. So I'm getting to the point now where I'm pretty much finished. I spent this week working on a cover design, which I'm quite happy with. I'm sort of looking at it when it starts coming together, any project that I produce, and it gets that sort of final portion. I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is looking really good. I'm really happy with how this is turning out. We're starting to get a professional product, and I always think this isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, but it's my cup of tea, and I'm hoping that if it's something that I like, then hopefully I'm not the only person in the whole world that likes what I like, and therefore other people will like it too. But who knows? I posted it on a Facebook group, just asking for a bit of feedback, not so much about what I'm doing specifically, but just making the point that, okay, the game's done. Now what do I do? How do I turn this into a product? Typically when I've worked on art projects in the past, it's been a case of the client will come to me, say they want some artwork done, I'll do it, and then they'll sort out the business side of it. They'll sort out the sales, the marketing, the producing of the product, the book, or whatever it happens to be. When I've never really dabbled in the kind of manufacturing, product and sales side of things per se, it's kind of left me feeling, well, pretty terrified really. And every time I sort of peek my head around the corner just to see like what needs doing next, I'll maybe go to a website where I could potentially find out about a manufacturer and how they produce games and the general gist of it. It's quite overwhelming. I don't really know where to start. I don't know if now is the time to get a quote, or whether I should continue working on like the back cover or the side pieces of the box, or should I work on my marketing campaign? Should I start garnering more interest from the project first and then get quotes? So I can get a bit overwhelmed. But anyway, I went to a group. I said, hey, I'm at this stage where the game's done, it's tested, I've done all the artwork, the graphic design, the rulebook's made, and someone replied saying, well, you've just fucked up. You've fucked up already. You haven't done the process properly. And I was sort of thinking, well, what do you mean? And then they said, well, the idea is to find an audience, find out what the audience wants, and then create a thing that the audience wants. And their sort of way of thinking was that if you don't do it that way, and if you sort of create from your own kind of passions and do your own thing, that's kind of like throwing mud at a wall and seeing what sticks. It's not typically something that works. I'm aware that this is an approach to business, and I have to admit that is probably the better way to approach making businesses. It's not about coming up with an original idea. It's not about being an inventor. It's not about you feeling as though you're oh so great that you can just make a thing and it's going to be awesome, and that's that. It really does seem to be how big products are made. You look at the gaming industry, and a lot of the time it's like, right, we're in maybe an established company, we know our target market, we know our core audience, we're going to cater for what they want. We might even put a few feelers out. We might say, how would you respond to this type of game or that type of game? Or, I think the big players in the industry are sort of looking for general trends that exist within the audiences that they kind of cater for or would cater for, and then they try and go in that direction. I mean, it is a risk. It is a risk to do something that doesn't really exist. And I guess what I've done at the end of the day, it's only a smallish project. It's only a card game. Card games exist, but I have to admit that it wasn't made to serve other people specifically. It was kind of me playing a load of games myself over, decades, kind of knowing what I wanted out of a game, kind of being pissed off with the fact that your typical board game, if you go on a Kickstarter, for example, and you back a board game with like 500 little miniatures that you paint and stuff, looks fucking awesome, but it is going to basically take you 4 hours to play the game because it's just so big, takes 40 minutes just to set the bloody thing up, and then you've constantly got to get 3 or 4 people to have round your house or you to theirs or to some location, play the game. You get these big campaign games that take 100 hours to complete, and you need your same gaming group to be willing to commit to, potentially 10, 20 plays of the game just to sort of get to the end of it. And I just thought, I can't do that. And I don't think most people do that. And I know most people get so enamored with the idea of exploring this giant role-play game fantasy world. And don't get me wrong, it's fun, it's cool. But really, do you have the same friend group who can meet up at your location, once a week or whatever for the next 20 weeks and are willing to commit? I don't know. I kind of get the impression that there are more people out there, kind of like myself, that maybe have a smaller friendship circle that, they have their own lives, they have their own families. We can meet up every so often for a game session, but not a regular sort of thing. It's going to be, we'll play a game, fine, that's that. We won't meet again for another 3 months, and then I'll have another sort of friendship group who, again, we can play a little game, again, won't meet up for another 3 months. There's still a way of sort of meeting up with friends, doing things, but this kind of regular play of like a big epic thing, it's just too much of a time commitment and it's too much effort. So yeah, I went away and created something that I thought would be a better fit for regular people, I guess. But it's worried me a little bit now, because I thought, maybe this is my problem. Maybe this is why I'm still, decades into sort of my career on the journey to become the full-time creator, full-time artist. It's because I'm just doing what I want to do. Maybe the easier thing to do is do what other people want to do. But then what do you do when your mind doesn't kind of really work like that? And like I've said to start, there are people that will advocate finding the thing you're passionate about, because at least then you'll see it through. And the thing is, if you're completing something simple like I've got a card game, it's got about 120 cards to illustrate. And some of those illustrations just repeat multiple times. So illustration-wise, it's only, 40 illustrations, if that. But even then, or if someone wanted to design a deck of playing cards or some tarot cards, that might have 80 or so illustrations required. That's a big job, you know, especially if it's quite detailed illustrations. Fair enough if it's quite sort of simple, you know, black and white line art, or maybe just a simple, you know, one tone, no shade type of deal. But yeah, some games are going to take a long time to produce, and most people aren't going to do it. Even if you're passionate about art, for example, the amount of people, for example, I've known that have said, right, I'm going to do, you know, I'm going to design a deck of tarot cards, or I'm going to design a colouring book or something. And then they think, well, wait a minute, I now have to sit down and draw 80 illustrations, not just one or two. It's not like just designing a cover for a thing or doing a sort of piece of editorial advertising illustration where you can really sit down, figure out how you're going to do this, maybe spend a couple of weeks really like getting into the nitty gritty of making a really cool, amazing piece of artwork, and then that's it, job done. But imagine doing that over years. And if it's a personal project, if it's just your own set of playing cards, or like me, my own card game, this isn't something that's going to make me £5 million at the end of it. It's just going to be a small product that, you know, at this stage, I'm kind of quite fearful that I'll only be able to sell a dozen copies, you know, for however many months of work that I've already put into it. And the trouble is I have to then go away and spend probably half of what the game will cost to sell, maybe more than half, in producing the game. So there's a lot of risk, a lot of commitment in making something. There's a lot of risk in producing the thing. And I guess I'm just basically saying that I'm a little bit worried about that. So yeah, anyway, yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Just a little status update, just to sort of ask the question what you think about being an artist, creating personal projects. But if you are creating personal projects, should you go out first and find the audience that you're trying to sort of win over? You know, are you sort of identifying the gaps in the market? Have you sort of looked in the world, out into the world, and you thought, you know what? People like mouse mats, so I'm going to design a really good mouse mat. Or there's a lot of fans of football. There's a lot of football fans, a lot of basketball fans. There's a lot of fans of, I don't know, whatever it is, cats. And I'm going to try and make something that they want based on my sort of market research. Like, is that the way forward? Or is it like a kind of selfish drawing from your own personal inspiration sort of side of things? Should you instead actually be thinking of what you really love, what you're passionate about, going out and making that thing, and then trying to market that thing to other people afterwards? It'd be interesting to just sort of know what your opinion of that sort of thing is, and I'll update and see you next time. Thanks for listening.